What's up, Slices? My name is Corey. Welcome to Cheapeats. Today, I'm going to be going over something that many Americans eat every day, pizza. Now, pizza is usually on a crust with some pizza sauce, which is mostly tomato, and with a cheese and some toppings like pepperoni and sausage. Now, pizza may seem cheap when you buy it, however, getting pizza is actually very spendy. So I'm going to be showing you a few ways to make pizza with just some things at home, and we'll do it in stages like the crust, the sauce, some cheeses, and then some toppings. So let's get started with some crust. Alright, so first off we need a crust. So here's a few. So mostly crust, is a sort of bread. However, I got a big surprise for you at the end. So starting off, we have a piece of bread. Now, you can use any bread, garlic, you could use white bread, wheat bread, whatever bread you got. Very cheap, very, very common. The next one you could use is a bagel. This is a skinny bagel, but of course, any bagel, probably not flavored, but any bagel will work. These are slightly probably more expensive than bread, but like this bread. But it's still pretty cheap. You can use these as little appetizers maybe. Next one of my favorites is an English muffin. These ones are even smaller than the bagels. They're probably still pretty higher, more expensive than this piece of bread, but still, can be used. Also very good for appetizers. And of course, the last one I got, which may surprise you, is top ramen. Now, my mom found a recipe long ago on the internet about this, and it sounds weird, but it turns out really great, and I'll be even showing you one. So this will be one of them, and then I believe I'll be doing an English muffin as the second crust. So let's go ahead and move on to sauces. Alright, the next thing we're going to be talking about is sauces. So usually the sauce is a tomato based, but I got a few here that will maybe spice it up for you. We'll even end on making our own. So first one I recommend is ketchup. It's very common, it's super cheap, goes great on bread, so that's a plus. Second one is some ranch. You can make a nice chicken bacon ranch with this, but you could just put anything with this. Try any toppings, whatever. All these sauces go together great with whatever cheese and toppings usually. Next one is barbecue. It's a very common one as well. A lot of people eat it with like sauteed mushrooms, chicken, sauteed onions, a lot of very barbecue-y things. Another thing you could do is just not have a sauce. Usually that's called a margarita pizza. If you do that, you want to make sure to put some oil on the bread or the ramen, or maybe some butter. That way it doesn't burn and turn out terrible. And of course, the last thing is we're going to make our own sauce with this can of diced tomatoes. We got this at a case-lot sale. It was only 49 cents. They last long. Obviously, they're cheap. Even if you don't, if you don't want to use it for a sauce, you can use it for many other things like salsa, just tons of other things. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the stove just to soften these little tomatoes. That way we can crush it and make our own sauce so it's not chunky. So I will be right back. Alright, so I had this going for about 11 minutes on the stove at a medium high to high temperature, all continuing to stir so it doesn't burn. The reason that we put it on the stove, like I said, is to help it thicken. Also, it helps the tomatoes take more flavor instead of having the raw acidic tomato taste to it. And make sure to do it with no lid, so then we can get all the water out and just keep all that solid tomato in there. However, this is not thick enough to be a sauce. It could be, but I think I want it a little bit thicker. And just for learning purposes, I'll just show you a few ways to thicken it. So here's my bowl. I'm going to dump this in there for it. All right, and if you want it to be less chunky, you could use a strainer, just strain it right in there. You could even maybe even use a blender, just blend it all together. Those tomato chunks will help it thicken. But the way to thicken it, a few ways. The first one is flour, that's very common. You just need a little bit, but I'm gonna go ahead and use something called tomato paste. So this is pretty much, this stuff, it's just very concentrated tomato. All the water's been boiled out. And I think even if we let this boil, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, it might have thickened enough to be a sauce, or more sauce, like thick enough to be the sauce I want. So I'm gonna add a little bit, not a whole lot, maybe about that much. Not too bad. Let me stir this real quick. Maybe a little bit more. It's not too bad. It should make a pretty good sauce. All right, and then the next part I'm going to be doing is some seasonings. Everything's good with seasoning. First one I'm going to put in is some garlic salt. You can also use garlic powder here, or just you can saute some garlic, like whole garlic, make a nice garlic in there. This is onion powder. You can use onion salt as well. I'm gonna add a little bit of cayenne pepper. This is optional if you don't like spice, but I like a little kick to mine. Very little. We're gonna add a little bit of pepper. And since I added some garlic salt, I'm not gonna put salt because it's salt in the garlic. And of course, we're gonna finish it with some Italian seasoning. You can add quite a bit of that. Mix it all up. And then to help it be less acidic, we're going to add just a little bit of oil. Now what kind of oil you use, it doesn't matter. What we're doing is we're adding a little bit of fat so that it's not so acidic. You can use olive oil, you can use canola oil, you can use butter. One really good one I like is bacon grease. Just after you're done cooking bacon, just save the grease and you can add it into this. So that takes away a lot of the acidity of the tomato if you don't like acidity. And I'm gonna go ahead and taste this and see how good it is. It's really good, pretty good. And if you ever oversalt it, or even I might just add a little sugar to it. So add a little bit of sugar, just to sweeten it up a little bit. I'll go ahead and stir that in. Give that one more taste. Maybe a little bit more oil. It's still a little acidic. I mean, if you're eating this with your family and you're sick or something, definitely taste with different spoons, but it's only for me and my wife, so it's not a big deal. If you're like a cook somewhere, definitely use different spoons. All right, so there's our sauce. And I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to the top ramen that I mentioned. All right, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna split it in half. See if I can do it without breaking the whole block. There we go. So we got two there. Take a little, put it on there. Beautiful. And then I will go ahead and make another pizza with the English muffin, but I'll put ketchup on it. And then we'll move on to cheeses. Alright, so we got our English muffin all ketchup. Is that a word? But now I'm going to be explaining some cheeses. Of course, you have mozzarella cheese, very common on pizza, maybe one of the only cheeses people use. The reason people use mozzarella and not cheddar or Colby Jack or any of those is when the mozzarella cheese kind of browns, it actually tastes pretty good. If you brown cheddar, it kind of tastes a little weird, and if you burn it, it's even worse. So mozzarella is usually the go-to. But of course, I got another one here. It's Colby Jack, but you can use, any sliced, Swiss. I don't know if they have sliced mozzarella, but you can even use shredded mozzarella, shredded Colby Jack, whatever kind of cheese you have. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some mozzarella on the top ramen ones. And you don't need to put a whole lot because we'll be putting a second layer after the toppings. So just put a kind of light. If you like cheese, you could add quite a bit, but there will be more cheese, so don't worry too much about that. So there's that one. And then for the little muffins, we'll go ahead and use the slices of cheese. I got thin sliced here. Maybe just easier to use, but you can use whatever kind. We can go ahead and I'm going to rip it in half just so it kind of fits better, maybe fourths. Just kind of set it on there. Mold it to look like a pizza. Alright. And now we'll go ahead and talk about toppings. Alright, so toppings. You could use anything for a topping really, as long as it's edible. Some classic ones are pepperoni, sausage, Canadian bacon. However, I wasn't really prepared, and so I'm going to show you to be very resourceful, and you could use anything. And when I mean anything, I mean anything. So I got here some hot dogs I cut up, and I'm going to put them on, oh, wrong one. I'm going to put on this one, just because, it kind of just goes with this one. It has ketchup on it already. It has some cheese slices. So we're going to go ahead and put some hot dogs on there. Got some snacks for later, so that's good. And then the other thing I have is some spinach. Now spinach on pizza, the spinach will shrink, so make sure you put plenty of it. Just put tons of it on. Oh, that's my oven, which I preheated to 375, which you can do. I usually don't wait for it to get done preheating because it's not as important as just, it just needs to be on. And we're not going to be using time too much on this channel. So there we go. We got tons of spinach on there. It'll shrink, so it looks big a lot now, but it'll shrink. And then of course we're going to put some cheese on top of the toppings. The reason to do this is so the toppings won't burn as bad. The cheese will take most of it, which is a benefit of the mozzarella because it tastes pretty good, a little browned, but this Colby Jack, I'm not really sure about Colby Jack, but cheddar for sure, if you burn it, it tastes pretty bad. So there's that. Add the mozzarella for the other one. Just put that on top of there. Again, depending on how much you like cheese, you can put a lot or just a little, just like that. I'll go ahead and grab this pan I've got prepared. You could use parchment paper, but I didn't have any parchment paper. You can also use tin foil, which I do have, but I didn't think of it. But we also have this silicone sheet. We got it off Amazon. They're really nice. You can save money on silicone, not silicone, parchment paper because it's reusable. You could wash it, but we'll have it in the description. So if you want to grab one, I think it's only like what, $10? Yeah, about $10. So we're gonna put these on there, and I'm going to put it into the oven at 375, and I'm not going to go by a time. I'm just going to go till the mozzarella cheese starts to brown or melt. If this cheese starts to melt, we'll take these out. But just by your judgment, if you like it crispy, leave it in longer. If you don't like crispy, take it out earlier. I mean, this is all cooked, so it's not a big deal. So I'll be right back with the finished product. All right, so here is the final pizzas. So I only put it in for about 7 minutes, but you can always go longer with this one because the mozzarella isn't quite brown yet. If you like a little brown cheese on your pizzas. But this one looks pretty good. The cheese is melted. The bun's pretty hot. All feels pretty good. But of course, you can take the toppings, the sauce, the cheese, put it on this, put it on the bagel, put it on the toast. You can even buy pre-made pizza doughs. If you want to get real experimental, you can make your own dough and make your own pizza dough, stuff like that. But there's so many different options. That's more than just pizza dough, tomato sauce, mozzarella, and pepperonis and sausage. There's always a pizza is like the most American thing because we just put everything and things that should go on there go on it. So, yep, I'll see you for the outro. Well, thanks for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and try the spinach top ramen pizza. Works really good. The ramen noodles are actually kind of soft. They're not crunchy, they are crunchy, but they're not as crunchy as they started. The tomato is really nice with the mozzarella. The spinach, I'm not a big fan of spinach, but it's a flavor. It's pretty good. I'll go ahead and try this English muffin one too, with the ketchup, the Colby Jack, and the hot dogs. That's really good. I like this one a lot. It does remind me of my childhood, ketchup and hot dogs with little chews. The muffin is, just warm, still very moist. It makes a very good crust. But yep, I absolutely recommend a muffin. The top ramen works really good as well. Bread, it works. They all work really good, but my top pick would obviously be this muffin and the top ramen. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Do all the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe. Comment what your favorite topping on pizza is. And I'll see you next time. Stay full and cook safe.